Imhotep, African History Network listeners. This is Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network show. I want to let you know that Saturday, January 18th, 2014, I'm doing a brand new presentation in Detroit, Michigan, but we're going to live stream it on Town Zone TV so you can watch it around the world. This presentation is entitled Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, What They Didn't Teach You in School. This is a presentation and discussion by myself, Michael Imhotep. It's taking place Saturday, January 18th, 12 noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the 5E Gallery located at 4605 Cass Avenue in Detroit, Michigan, right at the corner of Cass and Forest Street, behind the church that sits right on the corner. You want to enter in through the Forest Street entrance and enter through the red door. This is a free event. Donations will be accepted. Once again, we're going to live stream this presentation as well through Town Zone TV. So visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com for all the details. It's only a donation of $5 to live stream it. In this presentation, we're going to do an introduction and overview to understanding the transatlantic slave trade. But before you can talk about the transatlantic slave trade, we first have to deal with African people being the indigenous people to North, Central, and South America, coming to North America going back at least 51,700 years ago, and South America at least 56,000 years ago. We have to deal with the Moors going into the Iberian Peninsula, today known as Spain and Portugal, in 711 AD, introducing civilization and science and mathematics, astronomy, nautical instruments, reintroducing the concept of longitude and latitude to Europeans so they can once sail again. And then we have to deal with Cristobal Colon, or Christopher Columbus, setting sail August 3rd, 1492 for the so-called New World, and his so-called discovery of the New World and his 4 voyages. His voyages set the foundation for slavery, capitalism, exploitation of the indigenous people, especially African people, racism. This sets the foundation. So we have to understand a chronological sequence of historical events as opposed to looking at the transatlantic slave trade as just an episode that happened and a stain on the world and a stain on the history of America. So you don't want to miss this presentation, January 18th, Saturday, 12 noon to 3 p.m. at the 5E Gallery located at 4605 Cass Avenue in Detroit, Michigan. And we're going to live stream this as well through Town Zone TV. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com for all the details. For more information, you can also give us a call, 313-462-0003, or email us at theahnshow@gmail.com, theahnshow@gmail.com. We hope to see you there, Imhotep, and remember, right now, let's correct your own behavior.
One thing I explained to people, and I talked about this Friday, my presentation to the prison industrial complex, try to explain to people we are at war. We've been at war for over 500 years. I talked about this on Angelo Henderson's show as well. I use 1492. We've been at war since at least 1492. It's actually before then. I just use it as a marker because a lot of people, you know, talking to them about Africans being in Europe and before the slave trade, they don't know nothing about that. So I just do it 1492. But we've been at war for at least 500 years, and the war never ended. The war didn't end December 6, 1865 with the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment just stated that involuntary servitude was prohibited unless you were duly convicted of a crime. Okay, it didn't end with the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It escalates in 1982 with the war on drugs. There's been a war on African people. It escalates even more with the Omnibus Crime Bill, like 1995, 1996 under Bill Clinton. In the 8 years that he was in office, more African Americans went to prison than any other 8-year period of time in history. Okay, so we have to understand this. The war never ended, and when we look at the transatlantic slave trade, Dr. Edward Robinson, sometimes in my lectures I show a video clip of him, and he talks about how we have to understand, we have to look at the Africans who were captured in the transatlantic slave trade, we have to look at them as prisoners of war, because there's a war going on and they were captured, okay? When you look at them as being prisoners of war and you study history, you realize the war never ended. The war is continuing, okay? So this is what we have to understand racism. Powernomics, Dr. Claude Anderson. I'm gonna show you some information from Dr. Claude Anderson and Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, so we can lay a foundation here. In Powernomics, pages 3 through 7, he lays out a basic understanding of what race is, and after the concept of race is created, then racism comes. The term race first appeared with the emergence of the slave practice in the 16th century. 16th century is dealing with the 1500s for those that don't study history a lot. And then also BC counts down, AD counts up. BC means before Christ. You may also see BCE, which means before the Common Era. AD does not mean after death. AD means Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord. You may see it expressed as CE, Common Era. Okay. All right. The term race first appeared with the emergence of the slave practice in the 16th century. Records indicate the word race was selected because the various European slave trading nations were in a contest competing to profit from the mineral and human wealth of Africa. The prize for winning the race was the power to develop Western civilization using the wealth extracted out of Africa. Okay, so coming out of the Dark Ages, Europe was land poor, people poor, and resource poor. They're trying to look for mineral wealth. They're trying to look for spices, things of this nature, that you can take spices and sell them in Asia and make a lot of money. They just come out of the Black Death, the bubonic plague, that hits from 1347 to 1400. Europe loses about 1/3 of their population. Somewhere around 75 million people are wiped out by this plague. Okay, so these are some of the circumstances leading up to August 3rd, 1492, when Columbus sails. He has 4 voyages. We're going to go through, look a little bit at the 4 voyages, look at the aftermath as well, okay? And this is just like this gives you a good overview of it for you to go do more research. I encourage people to get the book, Christopher Columbus and the African Holocaust. Slavery is subtitled, Slavery and the Rise of European Capitalism, by Dr. John Henry Clark. And Dr. Leonard Jeffries wrote the foreword to this as well. Okay, now, to understand, very briefly, to understand racism occurs when a race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, and resources, and use this to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people, okay? In America, Europeans control about 87% of the wealth. African Americans control about 1/2 of the wealth, at best 2%. So by definition, we don't have enough power to be racist to anybody. We can be bigots, we can be prejudiced, we can discriminate, things like this. And bigotry is just, you can have hatred towards people, what have you, but racism is a power structure that occurs group to group. It comes out of European white supremacy. European white supremacy being the ideology that Europeans are superior, their culture superior, their religion superior, they can do what they want, they can go around the world and rape the land because they found it and claim it in the name of their God. This is what Columbus does. Claims land in the name of his God and then becomes a devil to the people, okay? And when you look at work from Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, usually in, I don't think I have it in this one because this is a shorter presentation, but page 2, the introduction of the ISIS papers, she deals with a basic understanding of what racism is and how racism permeates itself throughout all aspects of life through media and religion and sex and entertainment, things of this nature, law. Okay, so we have to understand this, and we have to understand also that when the Moors go in, two important things. When the Moors go into Europe, they intermix with Europeans. Okay, and Europeans see that offspring is no longer European. When they start to circumnavigate the globe, once they regain the concept of longitude and latitude, which the Moors reintroduced to them, they start to circumnavigate the globe. They start seeing that the majority of the people in the world are not European. And when they intermix with those people, they see when that baby comes out, it's not European. So they realize that they have to put something in place to preserve genetic white survival, because they realize that they keep intermixing with other people, especially African people, okay, that they could be genetically wiped off the face of the earth, all right? So racism is a power structure to preserve European white supremacy and genetic white survival. This is what we have to understand. This is how we have to look at it. And it has nothing to do with not liking people. Unfortunately, people confuse racial harmony with racism. Those are two entirely different things.